It's Monday, October 2nd, 2023, and this is episode 293 of You Can Bet on That. Hi, everybody. Welcome to You Can Bet on That, a podcast for the recreational gambler. I'm Mark Duvall.
And I'm Dr. Mike.
Mike, we had a pretty good time at Harrah, Southern California last weekend.
Yes, we did. I wished I could get out there more. It's just that there's just so much going on.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
It's hard to find time to go out and play craps, right?
We had a very good time, and it was profitable. It was one of those wonderful nights where we were ahead the whole time. Well, you were the first shooter, and you immediately sevened out, which I don't know why you don't pass the dice. But once we got past that roll,
I learned my lesson.
It was great. The whole night, we kept winning and winning. When I had the dice one time, I rolled the all. And you were, I don't generally bet that. You were nice enough to bet that for me on my roll. Yep. So I hit the all tall small and got that. So thank you, Dr. Mike.
Yeah. And the great thing was, Mark, is that after that initial roll, it was like pretty much all winning rolls. There were just a few times during the night where it was like an immediate out. And, that's beating the odds there.
Yep. It was definitely very nice. It was so funny when we first got there. One of their tables now is crapless. They've got the roll to win, and then they've got three, standard craps tables, but one of them is crapless. So when we got there, the regular craps was full, the crapless was empty. We walked up to it, and we were kind of like, we don't really want to play crapless. And pit boss Olga was there, and she said, well, do you want me to open up the other regular table for you? And we said, yeah. So they closed down that table, just moved the crew to the other one, and we played some regular. But you've still got some pull at that place, Mike.
Yeah, it was nice. We closed the table down, Mark.
And they moved it over. So, they regretted it because we had such a big win on that night.
Yeah, we did have a big win.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, the table opened, it was you and I, and then some people came. But after a couple of big rolls, a lot of people left. Because, they had made a good profit. Had they stayed, they probably would have made more.
They probably would have even made more. It was nice because we got to meet some listeners there for the first time. Nathan, who had let us know ahead of time, he was actually staying over there, sort of on his way to Vegas. He was going the next day to see the NFL game in Vegas.
It's on the way. It's on the way.
He was coming from the north.
Northern California to Vegas. It's a little detour to San Diego area.
Also, listener Jeremy was there. Jeremy, thank you for all the hardway bets that you made for us. Sorry, none of them hit. Isn't that weird, Mike? He made so many hardway bets for us.
Yeah.
And even though the rolls were so good, people just weren't rolling hardways.
No, and not one of them hit.
Not one.
I was just hoping to, hit one, parlay it, and then give him the money, but, it just didn't happen.
Also, Chris and Sylvia stopped by. They just said hi very quickly, but it was nice to meet them, and then they were on their way. And your sister and brother-in-law and brother also were there, right. And it was nice. We ended up eating at Hell's Kitchen.
And our friend Mary.
Oh, that's right. Our friend Mary. She didn't eat with us, but Mary met us there. Yeah. It was great because we got discretionary comps for the meal at Hell's Kitchen. So especially a Caesars run place, a lot of times they'll just use your reward credits to pay for things.
Right.
But your host and the floor that was working at the time were able to give out discretionary comps and paid for our whole meal for the five of us at Hell's Kitchen. So that was fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you, Robert. Robert was in the pit.
Right. He was the floor was running.
Yeah. He kind of organized that.
Yeah.
I sure wish I could go more. I'll tell you, Mark, I don't know what it is about that place, but they treat us well. That's part of it.
Yes.
But it's very friendly people. Never seems like there's too much issues. Too bad that property wasn't in Vegas or something.
We certainly, had such a great time going up there when you lived here. We had another great time. I know when you were moving away, everybody there was asking you, are you going to come visit, Mike? And you said, oh, yeah, I'll be out there probably, once every 2 months. And I'm rolling my eyes thinking, come on, you're not going to cut. And you haven't. You're talking about, I'd like to get out there. Well, come on, I'll drive you up there.
I try and then I go out and my parents take up so much time that, I just can't get there all the time. Yeah. And, they're getting to the point when When they go, what are we going to do?
I don't know. It's still up to you. I still live in the area, Dr. Mike.
For now.
Yeah, for now, that's true, right? Looking around. But anyway, another great trip up to Harrah's. So,
yes, anyone in the area, go to Harrah's there. Tip the dealers. I don't think you'll find an unfriendly one in the whole casino.
We just continue to have good experiences there. So, well, we got an email from listener Brett. He lives in the Spokane, Washington area, and he went to one of the local tribal casinos and saw a game being dealt called Supreme Pai Gow Poker. And here's how it works. This is pretty interesting. As a player, you make an ante-bet, and you're initially dealt 4 cards. Now remember, this is Pai Gow Poker. You're going to end up with 7 cards if you play all the way through. But initially, you're only shown your first 4 cards. Based on those cards, you can either fold, in which case you lose your ante and the hand is over for you, or you can make a raise, anywhere between 1 and 4 times your ante-bet. So if you make the raise, you get 3 more cards. So now you've got 7 total, and you make your Pai Gow Poker hand. Now the dealer receives 8 cards and uses 7 of them to make their 7-card Pai Gow Poker hand. So they have a bit of an advantage as far as how good their hand is going to be.
Right.
The advantage, if you want to call it that you have, is at least 4 of your cards, and maybe you can fold or make a raise depending on what how you feel about those cards. And then the hands are revealed. So, just like regular Pai Gow Poker, if you beat both of the dealer's hands, your 5-card hand beats their 5-card hand, your 2-card hand beats their 2-card hand, you win all your bets, even money. You win the ante-bet and you win your raise bet.
All right.
If you lose both of those hands, you lose the 5-card hand and the 2-card hand, you lose both bets, the ante and the raise. Now, here's the interesting thing. If it's a tie, in other words, you win one of the hands and lose the other hand, your ante-bet wins, and only your raise bet pushes.
Ah, that's in your favor.
That's in your favor.
Because there are a lot of pushes in Pai Gow.
Right, exactly. So I think that's what they're shooting for when it comes to the appeal of this game. Now, I actually posted about this game to the Wizard of Vegas forum just to let people know about it, because I couldn't find any information there or at Wizard of Oz or anything. And as I explained the game, one of my last sentences was, I have a feeling this would be a very hard game to analyze. And everybody pretty much agreed with me, because you've got to take into account, okay, what are my first 4 cards? How good are those? Should I fold? Should I raise 1 time? Should I raise 4 times? The dealer is going to be getting much bigger hands than normal.
Right.
And also, the dealer's house way might be significantly different from regular Pai Gow Poker because of this issue on ties where your ante-bet wins.
Correct.
So I can't give anybody a basic strategy, even close to a basic strategy here. I was playing online. Maybe I'll put a link to, you can play for fun online. I'll put a link to it. It's actually called Super Pai Gow Poker in the online version where you can play. So I don't know what the copyright issues are about the name and who owns the game or whatever. But when I played, there were obvious things. If you had like a joker and an ace, well, okay, yeah, you're going to raise, and you're probably going to raise the 4 times. And if you've just got garbage, nothing's connected and suited or anything, then you're going to fold.
It would be those middle hands that would be hard.
Yes.
Like, maybe you had a small pair and a king.
Right. And
so
then
you're kind of,
in that case, you just raise 1 time. Although, if you've got an edge, you're raising 4 times. Is raising 1 time a defensive move so that you don't end up folding your ante? Anyway, I'm not even going to pretend to say that I have wrapped my head around this game. I will say this, it did feel like, when I was playing this just for free online, that 8th card for the dealer, of course it's going to help them, but it seemed to me it helped them a lot. And,
yeah.
that was something that you really had to watch for. And, of course, they
think
were playing
about it,
bigger
Mark.
hands.
I mean, how many, you could make more flushes, right?
Yeah.
You can make more straights.
That was a lot of it. A lot of flushes and straights coming
trips.
out. Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge advantage. Even if they had Pai Gow, with 7 cards, getting that 8th card could give them a pair. It could also give them a better head. I mean, there's a lot of things there.
Very unusual for the dealer to end up having to play ace high.
Right.
Because of that 8th card. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But anyway, go ahead.
There's 2 things I want to say about this, Mark.
All right.
First of all, the name is great. Supreme Pai Gow Poker.
Right, yes.
I mean, if it was special Pai Gow Poker or
ultimate Pai Gow Poker, ultimate seems to be, yeah.
But Supreme Pai Gow Poker, who's going to walk away from that? I mean, what person? I got to try this. It's Supreme. So kudos on the name. And then also I thought of a way to improve the game while you were talking about it.
Okay, let's hear it.
They have to have a special little thing for that 8th card, a big fancy spot where it goes.
Oh, well, there's a side bet you can make based on what that 8th card is going to be.
See, there you go. Right? Now we're thinking.
You get paid at there are different side bets depending on what you see. But obviously the most common is going to be one of the lower cards, like a deuce or a 3 or something like that. It's rare that you would be using a king, that 8th card that you wouldn't actually include in the hand, right? Because a king is pretty good. So, but there is a side bet you can make, and there is a space on the table for that 8th unused card.
Nice.
So you're good thinking, Mike.
See, I like that. Yeah, like a special little spot on the table.
Yep.
There'll be a big, huge sign above it, a girl behind it dancing, pointing to it. Oh, boy. Wait till we own a casino, Mark.
Yeah, wait. Any other improvements or anything else you have to say about this game, Mike?
No, but I like it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that I'd sit and play it for very long because it would probably drive me crazy.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it. See, sometimes if games are overly complicated as far as strategy or whatever goes, people get turned off by that, right?
Well, here's the thing, and this is why casinos might love it. I'm not saying that this will catch on necessarily, but the game itself is not complicated, right? If you know Pai Gow Poker, you don't have to do a lot of explaining. It's just that the strategy would be so complicated. And a lot of players don't care about strategy. Right?
Well, that's true too. Most players probably just see their first 4 cards, and if they didn't have anything particularly interesting, just increase 1 time, right?
Yeah, right.
And then wait, and then do 4 times. 2 and 3 times is probably not going to get used a lot.
I wouldn't think so. And I think in the online version, you can raise only 1 or 4 times. So again, it's going to depend on the brand and what you can do. But Mike, think of how many people we see playing 3-card poker that are in every time. They don't even look at their cards.
Yeah, they're just in every time, just taking.
They like
the
big surprise. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So if the limit was low enough, if this is like a $10 table, then it'd be like, okay, I'll play it. It's a $20 table. Every time I'm just in for 10 and 10 more, and I just play my hand. And if I got something, if I ended up with like trip aces, my 4-card hand, of course, I'm going to go 4 times.
Yeah.
Something like that, right?
Yeah. Anyway, so thank you, Brett, for pointing us to this game. And if anybody else ends up playing it, let us know what you think. Supreme Pai Gow Poker.
I wonder if you could put this into a computer. I'd be interested to know if the dealer's going to get a ton more flushes and straights.
Well, figuring out what the dealer might play, that's probably pretty simple. Just 8 cards and, give it the house rules and how many times it would play. But actually figuring out what the player's strategy would be, that's where it gets too complicated.
What the player should do, yeah.
Well, last episode, we got some kind of sad news from Eamon. He said he went to the Hippodrome in London, and they have gotten rid of their craps table. So no more craps in the London area, maybe no more craps in the whole UK. We got an email from listener Ben. He said, found myself in a casino in Birmingham in the Midlands of the UK and stumbled upon a craps table. An employee explained how they got it pre-COVID, trained the staff, and then the pandemic hit. 0 dice ever thrown. So he actually sent a picture. The table is still there, but they've never used it. It would have been the second open craps option in the UK at the time, and now from what was said about London in the last show, we are down to 0. So close. So thank you for that information, Ben. Still seems pretty rough for our British friends over there when they want to play craps.
Gosh. And the government wonders why they lost that war in 1700s. I mean, you gotta have craps.
I guess so.
I mean, it's a sad state of affairs.
Well, I agree with you there, Dr. Mike. Hey, thanks to everyone who's been clicking through our Amazon link. Remember, whenever you're going to buy something through Amazon, please go to our page first, youcanbetonThat.com, and click through our Amazon link towards the top of the page. Amazon got rid of their banners, so we just have a link right at the top there. Shop Amazon. Yeah. So please click on that. All right, let's move on to voicemails. Speaking of Eamon, let's hear from him first.
Hello, gentlemen. Eamon from London here. This time with an update from Amsterdam. So last weekend I was over in Amsterdam and I hit up the Holland Casino, which is basically just in the heart of Amsterdam. Actually quite decently sized casino and quite a few games. To start, they have blackjack. We were there on a Saturday and a Sunday night. Saturday, obviously the minimums were more. It was either 20 or 50 euros. The interesting thing is you could only bet in 20 or 50 euro increments. So I couldn't bet 30 or 35. It either had to be 20, 40, 60, and so on. You also couldn't tip by playing for the dealer. If you wanted to tip the dealer, you had to tip them directly. And what I found the most interesting is that each spot on the table has multiple sort of play spots where you put your chips to play the hand. And what that is for is anybody can walk up and play on your hand, or you could play on, if you're sitting in third base, you could play on the first base hand if you want. So what kept happening is I was actually doing quite well, and then some of the other people around me then started playing on my hand. So they'd place their chips in a line behind my bet. It was quite interesting to see, like, the superstition, like if someone got hot, they would switch over to them and start playing on their hand. They would actually wait to see if I would split or double. So whoever plays is sitting at that spot and plays in the sort of the first position. They get to make all the calls. I'm not sure what would happen, though, if I split or doubled and they didn't have money to do the same. Maybe they just have to play the hand as it is, or like if it's split, they only play the first hand. But very different nonetheless. And the other games they had were Ultimate Texas Hold'em, Caribbean Stud, tons of roulette, obviously, and they even had the bubble craps machines. They didn't have craps, but they had sick bow machines. That was pretty cool. Nice. Didn't get a chance to play. They were actually quite busy. The last game I want to report on is a game called Diceball. So I think this is their version of craps. Imagine a craps table cut in half. You can just place, the 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. Or if you make 4 rolls without rolling a 7, then you win 1-1. There's hardway bets. They pay 5-1, and they don't lose on a soft roll. Yeah, so it's quite interesting. It's quite fast. Obviously, it's not quite as fun as a normal craps. And the last interesting thing about the game, I don't know how to explain it, but there's a little gray piece of felt all the way around the edge of the table. Well, it's just colored gray. It's about 1 inch wide. And if the dice stop or touch any part of that piece of gray, then it's a no roll. So you have to roll again. That's even if you hit the ball back wall and it bounces back to you. If it's touching that little gray part that is like a ring around the felt, then you have to roll again. Even if a dice is laying on the chip, then you have to roll again. So lots of rolls again, but fun nonetheless. It's called Diceball. It is very loosely based on baseball. Thanks.
Let's talk about the fact that on blackjack, you have to bet increments of 20 or 50.
Oh, I thought that was interesting too. So you could bet 20, 40, 50, and from that point
60.
on, then you could do, $10 increments by just combining 50s and 20s.
20s,
right?
right.
So, but not until you got to 50.
Isn't that weird?
20, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. That is strange, yeah.
It's those 30 bets that really piss them off.
Well, let's talk about Diceball. So that gray area that Eamon was talking about around the edge of the table, I don't know that that's standard on all Diceball tables. Not that there are a bunch of them, but that is kind of interesting. But let's talk about it. So first of all, there's no ball involved. I'm sure you're upset about that, Dr. Mike,
Well, it's loosely based on baseball.
Right, yes. And that's where it comes from.
I can see from the picture here the baseball players on there.
Yeah. So,
although I love the name Diceball.
Yeah.
It sounds like something that should be in a Bond movie. And James Bond would be like Burt Reynolds.
Oh, so it's like Cannonball Run?
Yeah, it's like Cannonball Run. It'd be Burt Reynolds and Dom DeLuise in some James Bondish type movie
called Diceball.
And they call it Diceball.
Right. And it's like this horrible movie, but everybody looks back on it fondly. Like the 70s.
Exactly.
Oh my God, that movie's so bad, but I love it so much.
Right.
Diceball. All right. So, yes, instead of a pass line, they have something called a run line. And when you make the bet there, the idea is that you're going to have 4 rolls in a row without a 7. So you make your bet on the run line, and then there's a roll. If it's not a 7, they move this marker to like first base on the layout. It's supposed to represent like first base. And then if you roll again and no 7, then you go to second base. Roll again, no 7, third base. And finally, if the final roll is not a 7, you make it home, and that bet pays 1-1, and we start all over. And if anywhere during that roll a 7 does come up, then the bet loses and it starts over again. So that's kind of the connection to baseball. That's how simple it is. That's why I think people would gravitate to it more, because it's not as complicated as craps.
Okay.
Now, as Eamon said, you can bet on any of the hard ways, including the 2 or the 12. You can think of those as hard ways, basically any pair. And the bet will win if that pair comes up, and it only loses on a 7. So it pays 5-1.
Uh-huh.
The other bets you can make, this is kind of interesting, they're place bets. And in some cases, they combine rolls of the dice into a single place bet. So for example, there's one place on the table where you can bet the 2 or 5. It's a single place bet that will win if a 2 or 5 comes up, even money, and loses if a 7 comes up.
All right.
There's also a place where you can bet on the 3 or 4 coming up. So that's a single bet, and if a 3 or 4 is rolled before a 7, that bet wins. Again, even money. Now, think about what I've described so far. How many ways are there to roll a 2 or a 5? There are 5 ways, because there's 1 way to roll a 2 and 4 ways to roll a 5.
4 ways to roll a 5.
So that's 5 total. Okay.
Uh-huh.
The second bet I talked about. How many ways are there to roll a 3 or 4? 5 ways, right?
5 ways.
2 ways to roll a 3, 3 ways to roll a 4. So all these place bets, there are 5 ways to win and 6 ways to lose.
Same with a 6 and an 8.
Right. You can bet just on a 6, because there are exactly 5 ways to roll a 6. So the 6 is its separate bet on the table.
Uh-huh.
Again, pays even money, should pay 6-5, but pays even money. That's how the house maintains its edge. Same with the 8. You can just place the 8. 5 ways to roll an 8.
And then I assume the 11 and the 10.
Yes, exactly. It's a single bet that will win if 10 or 11 comes up, loses if 7 comes up.
Then 9 and 12.
And finally 9 and 12. Right, exactly. Yeah. So those are the 6 different place bets that you can make.
Game based on odds adding up to 5, just like baseball.
Okay. I guess it kind of loses the baseball theme on those place bets.
Those bets, yeah.
Whatever.
Okay.
So that in a nutshell is Diceball. I'll link to a Wizard of Odds video kind of walking through it. I don't know if it's being played anywhere in the United States, but certainly.
Oh, no. It wouldn't, because baseball's real big in Holland, Mark.
Oh, okay.
Not so big in the United States.
Okay, now I understand it, yeah.
What is going on? I mean, first we got England getting rid of craps. Now we got Holland playing games based on baseball.
Yeah.
Very strange.
Yeah, it's a topsy-turvy world, Mike. So.
Topsy-turvy. That's a good way to explain it. It looks like on the picture that I'm looking at here, like this is played on like a blackjack table.
Well, it's a smaller table. I mean, there's no question.
Small table. Yeah. And it almost like roulette. Do you place your own bets?
I don't think so. I think, no, if you're looking at this picture, Mike, some of these locations are based on where you're sitting or standing. So they wouldn't leave that. They wouldn't leave that up to players. So I'm guessing that almost all the bets, and maybe even the run line bet, I don't know, are handled by the dealers. You just tell them
You
what you
think
want.
this is like a one dealer operation, though?
It could be, sure. I could see that. There aren't as many bets to pay out, so I think one dealer could handle it.
Yeah. Well, and this is a lot simpler than craps.
Definitely.
Like, a person wouldn't have to know if they're getting paid right. It's 1-to-1, right? So,
yeah, and it might sound complicated hearing it described on a podcast,
right.
But again, watch the video. It's actually much simpler than regular craps.
Yeah. Well, I like Diceball. I like the name.
Okay,
so,
there you go.
Even though there's no ball involved at all, I like it.
Yeah, rated R.
Yeah, rated
no one under
R.
17 admitted without an adult.
I don't know. Diceball? I think we're getting more into the X's there, Mark.
All right. Well, Eamon mentioned something he also mentioned on the previous show. That is betting behind in blackjack. And we were wondering, what happens in those cases when the main player decides to double down or split, something like that. We actually have some information from LAJ. Let's have a listen.
Hey gentlemen, LAJ here, calling in regards to the topic of playing behind, specifically in blackjack. A tribal casino that I frequented had this as an option. And basically, if you are the bettor who is playing behind, you are just simply betting whether you think that the seated player, the main player, is going to win or lose. And so if that player doubles down, then you will win or lose based on whether the player who is seated is going to win or going to lose. Regular hands play out just like regular hands. However, at the casino that I frequented, splits were considered an automatic push for the player who was playing behind.
Okay.
Whether or not listeners have been to a casino that actually has this, they might be familiar from the concept. It's actually in a movie, The Big Short. It's in the scene where the movie explains mortgage-backed securities and the securitization based on a blackjack game being played by Selena Gomez. That Selena Gomez in that example would be the seated player, and all of the looky-loos who are standing behind her are betting on either each other's action or whether they think that Selena Gomez is going to win. In that example in the movie, they're all meant to represent the mortgage-backed security industry and the different insurers that are out there. But that is a way that is basically showing playing from behind in a movie. Didn't see it on the You Can Bet On That TV and movie listing, so I thought I would give it a nice shameless plug. The You Can Bet On That TV and movie listing at youcanbetonthat.com. Thanks for all the good work that you do.
All right. Thanks, Jay.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. So at least at this casino, tribal casino, if the main player doubles down, the player behind, it sounds like, doesn't have the option to also double down. They'll just win or lose with the player. And if the main player decides to split, then the player playing behind, that's just a push for them, which could work in their favor or against them, right? If the split is splitting aces, well, shoot, they're missing out on a pretty good situation. If it's splitting eights, well, good, they're dodging, a bad situation. So again, this might not be the way it is at all casinos, but at least LAJ had an example.
I'm laughing because I'd be sitting there playing. You'd come up behind me, or better yet, Paul would come up behind me.
Paul would,
and bet on my hand. I'd split my tens.
So he's just because it's Paul.
Just because it's Paul, make him push. I don't care whether I win or lose. Just Paul.
That's right. Get rid of your 20. Oh, tough luck, Paul.
Yeah, too bad I decided to split.
Oh, that's hilarious. This scene in The Big Short, it's not exactly the same because in this scene, Selena Gomez has already been dealt her hand. She has an 18 and the dealer is showing a 7. So this is a really good movie. If you haven't seen it, watch The Big Short. But, they're discussing, behind her, I bet she wins. Well, okay, well, I'll give you odds on that. And I'll bet, all these side bets are being made behind. So it's not exactly the same as being in a casino because, again, her hand's already been dealt. And these people are making deals between themselves, not against the casino. Right. But I do recommend that scene.
Gosh, Selena Gomez. I would love to just have an hour to play craps with Selena Gomez.
You like Selena Gomez?
Yeah, don't you think she's like a real person? Just seems like she'd be one of those celebrities that would just pull up a seat next to you and gamble and,
all right,
it'd be no big deal. It'd be fun.
I'll see what I can do.
All right, work that out. Anyone knows Selena Gomez? I'll give her a free crap lesson.
Well, Jay, thanks for the plug for the TVs and movies pages on our website. I'll tell you, I'm kind of struggling with whether or not I'm going to continue the TV listings because, we're moving towards just streaming everything that we watch, and watching TV live or even DVR'd shows is just not as common as it used to be. So I don't know that people are really getting anything out of the page. I never pretended to think that a lot of people were getting a lot of things out of the page anyway to begin with. But
it's kind of fun for you to do.
Yeah, it's kind of fun for me to do, and I find out about things that are going to be on. But I don't think people are getting that much out of it. I might stop putting out TV listings unless there's an uproar from listeners.
Right. Mark, I'm with you. And you know me, I like to watch network TV, right? I did. We very rarely watch network TV anymore.
Oh, I know.
I mean, we watch like The Amazing Race and
right.
a few shows that we like. But a lot of it is things on other platforms.
Well, and even stuff that is on network television or cable television, you can watch on streaming services.
Right, on a streaming service, exactly.
It's kind of a different world. So I may stop that. And even the movie page, we live in a world now where there's so much content out there.
Right.
And I've put this movie page together. One of the members of the Wizard of Vegas forum groups was saying that my page isn't very helpful to people because there's just so much out there and it's not really searchable. And I know I did kind of overload it with too much. I put movies that had some kind of gambling scene in there, I put in there.
Right.
And, how helpful is that for somebody who's trying to say, hey, I want to watch a movie about gambling or about horse racing? So I don't even know how helpful that is. And especially with all this new content, how can I keep up with everything? And even though there may be some great gambling movies from the 30s and 40s, who's looking to watch those now? Again, I'm thinking of people going to the page. How much are they getting out of that? So I don't know.
Well, you make the decision. If you decide to get rid of it.
Let us know. Give me some feedback, and I won't absolutely wipe out everything. I'll save the data, at least for the movie page. Yeah, I don't know. I think the amount of time that I'm putting into it, not enough people are getting benefit out of it. So, we'll see.
Well, if you do decide that you're going to get rid of it, I'll fly my flag out in front of the house at half-mast for a month.
I'll let you know. Thank you.
A whole month. People, why is your flag at half-mast?
They're trying to think of things that have happened in the nation. No,
it's pretty obvious.
Mark took down the movie page.
We got rid of the TV page.
Oh, yeah. All right. Next call.
Yeah, this is Mike from Ohio. Trip report from a little while back. I just got around to calling you now. We were out in July. My wife and I were out in Vegas, and we stayed at the Downtown Grand, same as we did last year. Last year they had low minimum tables during the afternoon, but it was higher in the evening. Well, this time they had $5 minimums all afternoon, all evening. They aren't open quite all night, but all evening. But the main thing I wanted to say was we saw a sign as we were walking in said they had $1 blackjack. And I thought, wow, that's something. Well, as soon as we walked in the door, I saw they had some kind of electronic machine for blackjack for $1. I said, oh, that's what they were talking about. Well, no, not really. They did have 2 tables of $1 blackjack. Obviously, it was 6-5. But they also had a couple of other tables of regular blackjack, 3-2 for $5 minimum. So those on a low budget, good place to go. Take care, you guys. See you.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, that's outstanding. Think about that, Mark. You're, on a low budget, or some people just don't like to gamble, but they're there and they might think, I'll try it. $5 at a 3-2 table is awesome.
Oh, that's terrific.
And even the $1 at the 6-5, if somebody just wants to sit there and bet, dollars all night and maybe get some drinks, if the drink service is decent, or, even if it's not that great, but you do get some, that's a great deal.
Well, Downtown Grand, we love playing there. We always hear good things about it. The one bad thing we heard was from Big Lair when he ran into a crew there that wasn't very nice. And that was pretty bad. But otherwise, it seems like you can always get on a table. They have pretty good rules. I don't like the cashier. I've made that perfectly clear. Hate the cashier situation. But there you go, Downtown Grand.
Why don't you just pick it outside? What's the big sign? What the hell's wrong with the cashier at Downtown Grand?
Oh God, it's just there's only ever one person working, and the way the line is set up, So, but I got a problem with a lot of casino cages, Dr. Mike.
You're a casino cage snob.
I absolutely am. Could have an whole episode about that. All right, one last call from a listener we haven't heard from for a while. We love hearing from him. His call drops out a few times, but I don't think it's too bad, and I kind of edited around it. Let's hear from Ian.
Mark, Dr. Mike, it's Ian Dunk from Leicester, this time in Sydney. Earlier on this year, I think you talked about Australian casinos, so obviously I thought I'd better fly over here and just check it out for you. There's 2 casinos in Sydney. There's not that many around Australia. But one of them is a 2.4 billion Australian dollar, divided by 2 for American dollars, casino that was built called the Crown, which lost its license very early on due to money laundering. So there's this huge, beautiful hotel with no casino yet and no timeline for when the license will be granted. So that's an interesting one to Google. But we did go to the Star. The Star is a casino that's well established in Sydney. You can walk there or get a beautiful ferry where you can see the Opera House and the Sydney Bridge. I would liken it when you get there to Resorts World. Very bright, very airy, about the same size. No free drinks. We should really embrace that when we're in Vegas because there's no free drinks anywhere else around the world. Although a beer is about $6, a cocktail is about $14. And I know it's not your culture, but there's absolutely no tipping out here. So, it's an interesting experience. No cocktail waitresses going around, but, beers and drinks weren't expensive. Their slots, they call them pokies. So they all say, hey, we're going to play the pokies. Lots of slots or lots of pokies around the casino area. Only one craps table, open from 6 p.m. We played on a Thursday and a Sunday. There is another one upstairs, but only opens on a Friday and a Saturday for VIP card holders. So there's only the one table. It's $5 Australian minimum, which is about $2 US. The Hardways pays 9.5 to 1 on the 6 and 8. And on the 4 and 10, it's 7.5 to 1. So I'll let you guys work out the math as to whether that is the correct odds. They also have $2.5 chips. So obviously when you're playing 9.5 and getting 7.5, you need a $0.5 chip. So they're in play. A bit of a quieter table than the United States, but of course you've got multinationals there. There was us from the UK. There were Southeast Asians there. There was Australia there. All very different reactions to winning. But nevertheless, really good fun. We're on to Cairns next. Purely just to check out, you can bet on that casino report, and I will let you know when you've been there, and I will phone you back. Thanks. You do a great podcast. Bye.
Great. Thanks, Ian. Looking forward to hearing back from you.
I love hearing from Ian.
Oh, I know. Me too.
I mean, I've said this before. He's my favorite.
Okay. He's your favorite.
I mean, seriously.
No offense to every other caller.
Yeah, no offense to everyone else. But, if we're going to make the movie Diceball, and it's going to be a James Bondish type movie, Ian's going to be our star.
Is he going to be in it? I wonder if he wants to play a villain or a hero.
Oh, no, he's a hero.
He's a hero? Yeah. Okay.
He's a hero. Just his mannerisms, his voice, he's a hero.
All right, very good. Well, thanks for the info about those Sydney casinos, or the one Sydney casino that's actually open.
It's funny that there's a huge casino that can't have gambling.
Yeah. Do you, again, when you lived in Australia, you were relatively young. So did you even hear the word pokey or pokies for slot machines?
No, I never heard that. I was young. I was 17. I wasn't really into going to casinos. Right.
But I've got a Google alert on the word gambling or gambler, something like that. And every once in a while, one of the headlines will say, pokies, new pokies, at such as I have to kind of look at it twice. New pokies. What? Oh, yeah, that's right. Australian
They should change that here in the U.S.
To pokies?
It is way funner.
All right, I'm just going to start calling them pokies. There's no reason you and I can't just call them pokies, Mike.
Yeah, how'd you do on the pokies?
I have no idea what you're talking about. Excuse me, sir.
I'm ready to start saying pokies.
Okay, good.
I love that.
Yeah, the Hardways pay a little bit better than the United States. That was the case at the Hippodrome as well, right? It had these better payoffs on the Hardways. Now, the house edge on the Hardways here is pretty horrible. So even though it's better in Australia, it's still pretty bad. But it does cut the house edge in half. So hard 6 or 8, here in America pays 9-1. That's about a 9% house edge. 9.5-1 in Australia, about 4.5% house edge. On the 4 and 10, pays 7-1 here. That's about 11% house edge. In Australia, 7.5-1. That drops down to about 5.5% house edge. So there you go.
Yeah, I understand that. It's typical American gouging.
I wonder how this happened. If somebody outside the United States say, hey, let's make this better, or somebody inside the United States said, hey, let's make this worse. I wonder what the origins of the hard way payouts were.
That's a good question. If I had to guess, I'm going with someone in the United States said, let's make this worse and make more money.
Okay, you're probably right. We're the ones who added a 00 and a 000 onto the roulette wheel.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Yeah,
right.
That could be.
Yep.
All right, Mike, we are on our way to ZorkFest very soon here. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
It's
less than 2 weeks away.
Less than
Mark.
2 weeks away. So again, October 13th through the 15th at Harrah's Lake Tahoe. I will put another link in the show notes. We are actually going to be there when we would normally record. So our next episode will be delayed. Not sure how long a delay, but be aware that we won't be able to record because we're going to be either in ZorkFest or on our way home for ZorkFest. So watch
I'm leaving Sunday.
Coming back on Sunday, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm free Sunday night.
Oh, you are? I think we're coming back the next day. So sorry, Dr. Mike.
Well, maybe by Wednesday or something, we can get something down.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. Mike, I wanted to thank as many people as I could for the shoe donations that they have been sending to you, either real shoes or just cash. And
absolutely amazing.
I wrote a list down here, Mike, and I'm sure I'm leaving some people off. I'm going to read some names, and if you can think of any others, please let me know. But Grayson, Tony, Seth, Nathan, Ryan, Troller Boy, Anthony. Were there others off the top of your head, Mike?
Dr. Taylor and Dr. Tara.
Yep.
Both sent in a very nice donation.
Great.
And there was another one, and it eludes me right now, Mark, but I will have it for the next show.
Okay.
I've been writing them down as the school tells me stuff has come in.
Yeah.
And the response has been overwhelming. I can't tell you how happy I am, how proud I am of all of our listeners to be doing this. It's really, really helping a lot of people out.
That's great.
So kudos to all you guys. And whoever sees me at ZorkFest, I will be buying you some drinks.
Excellent. And again, if we forget to thank you specifically, one reason is because so many people have responded so positively.
Yes.
So again, thank you so much.
Yeah. Another reason is because I'm old.
Yeah.
And I just forget.
Yeah, I should have led with that. Dr. Mike's particularly old.
Particularly old. Right. And decrepit. Yeah. You need to add decrepit.
We did specifically get a donation from listener Randy. He wrote a note here. He said, "Hi, Mark. Please accept this for Dr. Mike's shoe drive. A year ago, when I last went to Vegas, I got busy and forgot to send a karma donation. My wife and I both got COVID and lost our shirts, so won't do that again. In the meantime, what a wonderful cause. Love the show. Randy from Springfield, Missouri. Go Chiefs." All right.
Hey, so Randy, Springfield, Missouri. I love it. I have so many relatives in Springfield, Missouri.
Very good.
My mom's from just a small town right outside Branson. And Springfield's the closest big town where everyone goes to shop, just a few miles up the road.
All right. Very good. Well, we also want to thank some people for some recurring donations to the show. Brian and Sarah, Josh, and the boys over at the Crap Vegas podcast. Thank you very much for those recurring donations. We also got a bunch of one-time donations thanks to Eamon drawing attention to it on our last episode. So thank you again, Eamon. We got a donation from Scott for a Lake Charles/Biloxi trip. Well, good luck. A donation from Henry. Thanks. Love the show. A donation from Tim Lawson. He says, because a listener told me to. I like that.
Hey, thank you, Tim.
Also, a donation from Ryan, $25 for the kids' shoes and $5 for y'all. Oh, well, thanks again, Ryan, for that.
Thank you.
Also, a donation from Justin, Droopy Ball Sacks. Thanks for the show and all you do. Oh, there you go. Keep it clean, Mark. Keep it clean. Also, a donation from Reggie. Eamon made a good point. Y'all have given all of us hours of entertainment. Thanks, guys. Well, thank you, Reggie. A donation from Jake. No message, but thank you, Jake. A donation from podcast favorite John B. Karma donation, heading back to Vegas September 28th through October 2nd. Oh, so that's wrapping up for him tomorrow. Mostly downtown this trip. Thanks for the poker tournament. Always a fun time, even though I was out early this time. Again, John B. Well, hopefully you had some good luck, John. And finally, a donation from Kevin. Thanks for keeping me entertained at work. All right, excellent. Glad that people were able to listen at work. Well, thanks again to everybody for all those donations. Hey, at the top of our webpage, you'll find a link to our store where you can buy You Can Bet On That t-shirts. Also, you can find a list of all the gambling-related shows coming up on American TV, at least for now, at youcanbetonthat.com/TV-listings. And we've got a list of gambling-related movies, at least for now, at youcanbetonthat.com/movies. We'd love to hear from you. Call our voicemail hotline at 951-292-4377. That's 9512-WAGERS.
9512-WAGERS.
Or you can email us at youcanbetonThat@gmail.com. We're also on Twitter at YouCanBetOnThat and on Facebook at facebook.com/YouCanBetOnThat. Dr. Mike.
Well, Mark, I have to say this. Baseball season ended today.
Yes?
The Padres missed making the playoffs by 2 games. They were 2 wins, 12 losses in extra innings.
Yep.
If they had only won 3, 1/4 of those 12 losses in extra innings, they would have been in the playoffs.
Mike, I'm just happy they ended with a winning record because I didn't think that was going to be possible. I mean,
they eked out a win.
Disappointing season, absolutely. But with today's win, the last game of the season, they finish 82-80.
80.
Above 500, yep.
In the preseason, a lot of people were talking about them winning the division, beating the Dodgers, and, possibly this is the year they win the World Series, and they didn't even make the playoffs.
Yep.
So, very disappointing. We'll see what happens in the off season. Anyway, I'm excited for the playoffs.
Good.
Just because, I love watching.
Yeah, postseason baseball I enjoy. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Postseason is great. The other quick thing I wanted to mention, it was, again, about the shoes. Just a couple days ago, I was at the market here in town, and a little 3rd grader who goes to school at our school came up to me. They all know me. And she came up and she doesn't know where the shoes come from. Yeah. And she's holding her foot up. Look, Mike, Mike. And she had these brand new shoes on. She was so happy.
Oh, that's great.
So, that's who these people are helping out. And I really appreciate it.
Great.
And other than that, Mark, I hope we kill them in Lake Tahoe.
I hope so, too.
And by that, I mean the casinos.
I knew what you meant.
Not the listeners.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. We'll see you all at ZorkFest.
See you then. Bye.
Okay, let's thin this herd. Untucked shirt, no thank you. Born in San Diego, yikes.
An adult named Todd?
So, this is what online dating is like?